All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to part three of our Telecaster build. It's Monday here when we're recording this video, so we are getting ourselves ready for this week and trying to fit in this Telecaster build throughout the week because we're getting really anxious about getting it put together. We finished all the hardware. Yes. It's all looking crusty and rusty and beat up, so we are ready to do some of the next steps on this. So to recap, we've kind of gone through this process of looking at the parts and making sure they fit and doing all that fun stuff, and it's been pretty good so far. How would you feel about kind of the progress? I know that both of us would love to have played this Tele like last week, but we are being very patient people.
Yeah, as soon as the neck showed up, I was like, oh man, I'm ready to play this thing. But you know, it is kind of fun that like all the parts have locked together pretty well, and sometimes there's issues with neck and body fits and like, oh, I ordered the wrong this part, I need to get this size for that. So luckily all of this has come together pretty smooth, I think, and the hardware looks great, it feels comfortable. And you know, even like I took some like abrasive pad to the pick guard, like pretended to strum, and I was like buffed out some of the shininess and just to match, because
for all the like this kind of stuff that we're going to be doing,
PT
it's already built into this relic. That's how authentic this relic's going to be. So.
I spent a lot of time strumming on a Tele, so that's where I would strum. But you know, made it match to the hardware, and it's all coming together. I think that you spent most of the day today really getting it together. I heard the drill going, and I was like,
I was drilling stuff, I was lining things up, and we'll talk about that coming up. I did kind of we were talking about, laying out all the parts, and I was like, oh, I didn't need to relic the pickguard screws, and then I couldn't find the mounting screws for the bridge itself, and they were still in the packaging. Thankfully, I didn't throw it away. I found those, and so I got those reliced on the top. Even though they're going to be kind of under the saddles, it's still, we're going the extra mile on this. So we are going to dive into some of the parts that we did today, and then at the end of the video, we're actually going to talk about the fun part. It's all fun, but we're going to talk about the sound. We're going to talk about the pickups and what we're going to do for the pickups. We'll get to that in a second. So let's take a look at some of the things that we did today to get this thing one more step down the road. We have all sorts of fun stuff. We were drilling all the holes for the pickguard, the control plate, the bridge ground wire. Now, talking about kind of that bridge ground wire, we mentioned it in one of the early episodes. We need to sand the bottom. Marco already pre-sanded the bottom of the Tele bridge metal itself. We need to add a ground wire, and I'm going to show a little shot here while I'm talking just about the ground wire being drilled. I call this the down and out method. So you drill a hole straight down, then you use that hole to drill into your cavity. So if you try to drill straight into the cavity, your drill can bounce off the surface of your guitar, creating a even more authentic relic, I guess, at the end of the day. So we don't want that. So if you drill down, maybe at a 1/4 inch or so, use that as kind of the basis to angle your drill in. Make sure you're looking good on your angle. You're going to drill out the back of the guitar body into the cavity. That will run a separate ground wire to the back of the volume pot, which will allow us to ground the pickup. Now, you mentioned before, we have stainless steel mounting screws on the bridge pickup, so we're not going to be able to ground through those screws. We have to add that extra wire. So the other thing that we did is we installed the neck plate in the screws, and I'm going to show some shots of that on this video as well. We use the old soap trick. So putting some soap on the screws allows you to get less friction when you're screwing in the bolts there. So we made sure that the pre-drilled holes on the neck were pretty close to the size. You don't want to get them too big, but you want them to be pretty close to the exact size of the screws just to make it easier. You want a solid neck to body connection. Everything went well on that, but the soap kind of just helps those go in. And if you notice in the video, kind of just giving the trigger little squeezes to make sure it's going in a small amount each time. That was kind of attaching the neck. Really cool. Everything fit really great on that. And let's see, what else did we do today? We had the strap buttons. So I'm going to show a little bit of a location of the strap buttons using a piece of tape and a square. So you'll see me laying out the square here and using a piece of tape to kind of draw the center line. So I'm not going to draw on the body and use the tape to kind of line that up. Taking our calipers on the millimeter setting to measure the thickness of the full body, and then we're going to half that, as you can see with my trusty calculator on my phone there. We're going to use that to to get half of that measurement, which will be our center line on the guitar, our center point between the thickness of the body, and then we're going to use the edge of the caliper point to poke a hole, and that's our guide hole for our pre-drill for our strap buttons. So you'll see me doing that there. We also located the jack mounting holes, so the 2 screws there held in piece with a tape there. Let's see, what else did we get done today? That's the majority of the stuff, and then obviously we looked at kind of at the end here. I'll show some really fast B-roll / speed. I don't know how we want. Yeah, just like super fast hyperspeed. That's it. I'm looking for the word. I just can't figure out what to call it. But this is kind of putting the electronics together. So preloading the control plate. You mentioned in the very first video about how Teles are so great because you can just kind of work them, pull it out and mod it and install stuff back on. And so that's what we did there. You'll see some shots as I'm talking about the pieces and parts going in the pots. We're going to make sure we add a ground wire. You'll see me adding a ground wire there. You'll see me adding the tone cap, connecting into the lugs of the 3-way switch. We're just going to do a simple 3-way, master volume, master tone, standard Tele. Yeah, standard Tele wiring this time. So just some shots of that, and any little breaks in the shots, I'm actually looking for the diagram that fell off, and then I had another piece that fell off during the process. So that's why we're speeding it up, so you're not like watching me looking for parts. So that is a lot of progress today. We got a lot of holes drilled. As you can see, kind of the body is sitting there with a bunch of dust flying around. We are ready to mount everything. Now, the thing that we got to remember when working with Teles is you kind of have to have everything loaded before you actually screw it down. Mm-hmm. So the bridge has to be, we have to put the actual pickup in there. We have to put the saddles back on. We have to screw it down, add that ground wire that we talked about. So all that stuff has to be done before we can actually wire it. So if you're working on Tele or you have worked on Teles before, that's probably the most, I don't know, frustrating part of the Tele is you can't just take the bridge pickup out. You have to actually take the bridge off. And usually take the saddles off to get to the screws, all that stuff. So that's why we kind of did this in the order that we did. We made sure all the parts were relicked, and then we'll get into the fun stuff here with the pickups. So you ready to talk pickups?
Yeah.
So you and I started a week or two ago, maybe, just kind of going back and forth. And what did we settle on for this guitar, pickup-wise?
So we did settle on something. We kind of hinted at like a vintage kind of set inspired by the vintage. That kind of seems to be our favorite, I think. And when you do get a Tele, and that's kind of where we kind of like it to be. But we decided to opt for Alnico 4 magnets instead of the traditional Alnico 3 that would come standard with the vintage set. And so I find it does a really nice thing where you can still, people compare it between like a 2 and a 5 sometimes. But I think it does this really nice kind of percussive thing that I think lends itself really well to both the neck and the bridge positions of the Tele. So I'm curious to think about, or to hear what you think of it, and even just, I know that we're going to overwind the bridge a little bit. I think both of us like it to be a little bit more, a little bit more thick sounding.
We've kind of been talking about this Esquire thing, right, for a while, and you've got a Tele with an overwound bridge position. The Alnico 4, you mentioned kind of like a nice tight response. It's got not as harsh, bright high ends to it. I really like the Alnico 4 set, and overwinding the bridge is kind of the way that we EQ the pickup. So we're going to actually bring in more low end, more bottom end fatness by overwinding it, but it's not going to be too powerful. So I think one thing we noticed about this, even as I've got this guitar together, I was going to grab it, but everything's kind of just sitting on top. But it's got a really cool resonance. It's got a really cool vibe now that we bolted up the neck and the body together. So I'm excited to see this Alnico 4. And I think probably, I don't want to say that we were bored of just putting our regular stuff in there, but I think we want to use this platform to create something new. So we're just as excited as you are to find out what this might sound like. Yeah. We kind of have a general idea, and this is definitely a little bit of a left field thing from any of our other Tele models. And who knows, maybe this will be the official Partscaster
this is set. Brian's official Tele set.
The shop demo set, which sounds really like it's really boring or something like that. But we are actually really excited to kind of do this, and we are not going to really hear this much until we get into the next part of probably a couple parts down the road, I think, because next video we're going to be looking at kind of getting the rest of everything mounted. We're going to show you some of the building of the pickups in the next video. I think that's what we're excited about. It's I show the bobbins being built, the pickups being wound and assembled, and then we'll talk, go through the wax potting, all that good stuff, and then get them in the guitar and get everything started to wire up. We're waiting on a jack to come. We ran out of jacks here at the shop, so we've got a jack coming. We're just into this final stage. We're really at that point. We're going to be down to mounting the tuners on, getting the 6-in line, whatever tiny little screw that goes in between each one of those. So we'll talk about that in the next video and kind of get everything put together. We have a little bit more roundover stuff to do. I think we're just anxious to build. And we were just actually talking before the camera came on. It's like, there's a principle that is good to just get stuff put together, and then that you can keep working on it and tweaking it. And obviously, we want it to be a top-notch Tele when it's done, but we also want to get together and kind of say, all right, here are the things that we noticed about it, and here's what we need to change. And kind of, I hope we can include that in some of the later videos of this series. So as you've been enjoying this, please leave some comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Marco and I have been having a blast doing this. We're already talking about doing a Strat after this, so if you would love to see a Strat be put together in the same format, we're obviously doing a little bit more long form videos, but I think this is something that's interesting to kind of walk through each of the steps. And if you have questions about what we did to lay all the parts out, I kind of went through that pretty quick, but I didn't want to actually film in real time everything because it would have taken hours to kind of show it all. But really, I think you're a little bit more versed in putting Teles together, but I think for me is getting the bridge and the pick guard and the control plate kind of in harmony is probably one of the most important things of the entire build.
Totally,
right?
Yeah. It's kind of like the main interface of the Telecaster, like the control plate of the thing. So
definitely.
And little things, especially when the holes aren't drilled already. It's nice when all the holes are drilled and you're like, oh, this guard doesn't fit. Let me just drill a bigger hole, or I don't know.
And I think that I think that everything got lined up pretty well. It looks really good, and we're gonna find out as we get closer to kind of like tacking all the parts down. And
but the project never stops.
It never stops.
Even the $5,000 guitar that you buy, like, it still needs some work every now and again.
Right, that's true.
It all, it's all a lesson in getting better at making your instruments play nice. I think.
And hopefully it's been fun for you guys to kind of follow along with us. It's been a cool journey to kind of work through this. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you for watching stuff on our channel. We have a ton of new stuff that's going to be coming out on our channel. We're going to be jumping into part 4 here probably within a few days of this video being published, because we are getting to the super cool stage. We're starting to see things come together, and we're going to hopefully get some tuners on this thing. And I did notice, we were talking about this I think off camera, but the last thing we noticed was our string trees have a hole for the mounting screw, but they also have a little pinhole that sticks down. So we're going to have to figure out what we want to do with those string trees, whether we have a hole for the pin and then a hole for the mounting screw, or just find a different string tree altogether. But that's after strings are on and we're a little further down the road. But I did notice that as kind of one of these potential speed bumps that's coming up. So maybe we'll look at those and show you what we're talking about in the next part, and just kind of give you a little insight on what you might want to do if you get into that situation. Because that was a surprise to me.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens. But I mean, if we're worried about string trees and everything else has been rock solid so far, I think we did pretty good.
Yeah,
all things considered. So thank you guys again for watching. We'll catch you on part 4.
Yeah, bye guys.